No two NFL games are ever quite the same.
Oh, it got loose!
But they do share a lot in common when it comes to what happens before the opening whistle. You see the coaches and players laying it all on the line. But you don't see the hundreds of people coming together to fill dozens of roles to make every NFL game happen. This is the countdown to kickoff. It's an otherwise quiet Monday morning in Green Bay, Wisconsin. In a little over 14 hours, the Packers will host the Detroit Lions. It's still dark, but the first sign of game day has appeared. Massive cement parking barriers are being placed around the parking lot. It remains mostly empty inside the stadium. But as the sun rises, there's one person in particular making sure everything is ready for the players to take the field. Literally.
My name is Alan Johnson. I'm in charge of basically everything that grows. What I like people to realize is when they come to watch an NFL game, especially for a natural grass field, the preparation starts way before. Last minute is not a good time to be trying to do anything with the field. As soon as we have a growing season in the spring, we're like farmers and we come out and we're trying to get the field ready and we're always tweaking it. Once you get to the point where you're in season and in games, say you have a game on a Sunday, mow Saturday and paint everything on Saturday. And then weather will factor into that, obviously. If it's going to rain that day or rain game day, you have to be extremely flexible. It's me and 3 guys that paint the field, so typically 4 guys. So certain guys will do this, certain guys will do that. And one guy always does those special initiative logos because he's good at it. So he's our artist.
The bulk of the work to prepare the stadium for kickoff is done by the time game day rolls around. From making sure the heat works to programming the ads that will play on the video board.
About 4 days before the game, we test our critical systems throughout the stadium, generators, transfer switches, pumps, that type of equipment. Make sure everything's operating properly. And then throughout the week, we have various things that we just test and get ready.
If we have a Sunday game, it starts on Monday, which is typically the culinary team and the hospitality team resting and making their plans for the upcoming Sunday. Deliveries will start to come into the building late Monday and then all day Tuesday. Culinary team really starts kicking into gear on Wednesday. It's your clubs, your suites, your premium dining areas that they're really getting ready for. And then it's a big build up to Sunday.
For the most part, for the game, the first thing we'll do is we'll put together a pregame script in a sense of the timing and the schedule for when we're introducing the visiting team, when we're introducing our team, when we're going to do the national anthem, the coin flip, and then up until kickoff. Then that goes out internally and then goes off to the NFL and to the network that's doing that game. Once that approval happens, then we kind of have a framework for how we're going to back time our pregame activities, and then we put a script together.
There's a new wrinkle this year too, or an expanded one at least: fireworks.
For us, fireworks are used when we introduce our team, when we introduce each individual player. Then we have a firework that goes off and rockets red glare. And then we have one at the end of the national anthem. And then really, we don't use fireworks again until we score a touchdown. And then at the end of the game when we win, firework volleys go off. We have 6 scores kind of loaded and ready to go. So if we score more than 6 touchdowns, it gets a little scary because we're afraid we're going to run out of fireworks. But we hope every game that we run out of fireworks.
There's one more big caveat though. In a city that sees the average high temperatures drop over 50 degrees over the course of a season, you can guess what the biggest consideration eventually is.
It is a frigid day here in Green Bay. 8 degrees, wind chill below 0. Winds right now around 8 miles per hour, but gusting anywhere to 15 to 20 throughout the afternoon. It is snowing. The frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
And making sure everything is ready regardless of Mother Nature's influence starts with one of the most unique fields in the NFL.
This field is comprised of basically, it's a sand root zone, so it's about 11.5 inches of sand. And when I say sand, I mean sand like the beach. The water goes right through it. So underneath the sand, you have PEX tubing, plastic tubing. Every 6 inches, there's a line. If you could peel all this away, you see a maze of white tubes, and it's circulating antifreeze.
These boilers that you see here are what we use to heat the field. How it works is the boilers heat the hot water, goes through pumps that are pumped underneath the stadium bowl out to the field. And there's thermostats out on the field, very similar to a thermostat in your house. So if one zone calls for heat, that zone gets hot water. And one of the reasons we built it that way was because when we built the south end zone, when the sun is low in the horizon late in the season, it doesn't hit the field as much. The north end gets some sun that the south end doesn't. So those zones are important, so the south end is heated more than the north end.
Our heat system sits on a bed of pea gravel on the bottom of the sand layer. Sand isn't really stable in and of itself, and because of our growing season, we are going to have areas where the grass is going to get thin, and you won't have a grass canopy and a root system to hold that sand together. So to take care of that situation, we had a company from Europe come in, and we call it stitching. They push synthetic fibers into our sand about 7 inches deep, and they stick out about 1 inch. And they're every 3/4 of an inch. There's 20 million of those individual stitches in this sand root zone. Looking down, you really don't see them. They're there though. And they're there primarily to keep the sand stable.
So unless there's another freak situation that overwhelms the heating system, like what happened here during the 1967 NFL Championship, the second coming of the frozen tundra isn't on the horizon. But even though the frozen field isn't a concern, the lack of sunlight is.
Not only are we dropping in temperatures, we start losing sunlight in the field. Can't grow anything without photosynthesis. So that's when we start using our grow lights to help replace the sunlight lost. The type of light is called PAR light, photosynthetic active radiation. It's the spectrum of the light that the plants use to grow and go through the process of photosynthesis. The southern end of the field, this gets the lowest levels of light. We have a shade study, and we also have boxes out on the field that gather information for us and measure the light levels. We use our heat system artificially to keep the soil a little warmer to extend the growing season. Then there also comes a certain point in time where once the air temperatures start getting below freezing during the day, then all bets are off.
And of course, the snow and the cold impacts more than just what happens on the field.
The weather impacts liquid consumption more than it does food consumption, but also things sell differently, right? So if I'm in the stands and I've got gloves on, I'm not gonna go get a nacho. I'll go get a protein or a sandwich or something a little bit different.
Get your breath, get your cheesesteaks, come on in, grab and go.
From a preparation standpoint, really the weather doesn't play too much of an impact. Although I will tell you this job is the first time in my life I've had to figure out how to keep beer warm. We actually installed engine block heaters on our tap lines so that they wouldn't freeze in typically playoff games when you're in January, which hopefully we will do this year.
Oh, and they also found a pretty good way to get the snow cleared in a hurry.
You know, leading up to the game the week before, if we have snow removal, we bring in volunteers to help us do that. That's been going on since the early 80s, and basically what we do is when we need help, we put an ad on the nightly news. We tell the networks to tell people we need help. Usually use about 600 people.
We have people that come out and will take off work so they can come and shovel at Lambeau Field. We provide all the shovels, and there's a unique system that our facilities department handles, and is a very smooth operation.
So that pretty much gets us to game day. Today's matchup is happening in prime time, so we have a few extra hours to prepare. But if it was a standard Sunday kick?
So for a 12 o'clock Central game, they'll start at 2 a.m. and they'll start building up. It's your longer prep time things, your whole muscle proteins, your steaks, your tenderloins, things like that take the longest, right? But they'll start cooking at 2, things will start getting prepped, they'll start plating things up, and then off it goes out to different parts of the stadium and kind of go from there.
For us on game day, it really starts at 4 a.m. and our first crew comes in at that time. Early parkers come in about 5 a.m. and man the gates that are critical for staff, coaches, employees to come in. And then from there, the bulk of the crew comes in about 6 hours before kickoff, and that's when everything really gets going and systems get started. You know, elevators, escalators, all that type of equipment gets going, so we're ready to go when gates open 2 hours before kickoff.
While the Packers staff continue getting Lambeau Field fan ready, the NFL operations team is arriving on site, about to run through a checklist of their own.
I'm Dave Gardy. I've been at the NFL for about 16 and a half years. I'm a Senior Vice President of Football Operations at the league office. It's about 5 hours before kickoff. This is typically early for me to be in and around the stadium. We get to the game usually about 3.5 hours before. I always love to just kind of walk around a little bit when I get out here to Green Bay, just to kind of get a vibe of the place and feel. It's exciting. I appreciate this game day environment and the fans and this sort of neighborhood. You're kind of right smack dab in the middle of the neighborhood. Is a residential area, and then you see a very historic, iconic stadium behind us. You don't really see that in many other places, which I can truly appreciate. Every time I stay at this hotel for Packers games, I see they're the first ones here in the parking lot.
One of Gardy's jobs is ensuring the officials are on site and ready to roll.
So the crew gets in the day before. We want to make sure they're in the city where the game is the day before. They will meet as a crew. They will watch a little bit of last week's game that they officiated. And then there's always a video that we send out to the crew for them to watch in preparation for this week's game. They're doing a little bit of scouting of the Packers and Lions based on what those two teams did last week. Formations, different type of plays, unique plays that they want to make sure they're prepared for during the game. Once we get inside the stadium, about obviously 3 or 4 hours before kickoff, that's when a lot of our game day personnel who work for the league office get involved, and it's more directly related to the game. For a typical home game from our clubs, this is pretty much entirely the Packers running everything.
If you're a fan, 4 hours to kick is the moment you've been waiting for. The parking lot's open, and it's time to fire up those coals.
When our parking lot opens up about 4 hours before, we have cars lined up probably a couple hours before that, waiting to get in and get their certain parking space that they enjoy having next to their friends.
Go back, go!
And it's very exciting. There's lots of music, lots of flags, lots of uniforms and outfits that people wear, and there's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of friendships that have been built around tailgating.
Okay, come on. I know what you want. You want a brat. That's what you're sticking around for.
So one of the first things I do when I get to the stadium is walk the field, just to make sure everything's painted correctly, to see if there's divoting and things that we need to be concerned about. That rarely ever occurs. I focus in on the middle of the field inside the hash marks first. You can see that that's where obviously a lot of the play comes, a lot of the offensive and defensive linemen are here. Every time they host a game, they have to do their certain testing that's required by our office. Some of it is the hardness of the field, so they'll do some tests and drop things on the field to see the surface hardness. Things called the shear value of the field, which is kind of how a cleat reacts to the field. So all those numbers go into a database system that we have. We are constantly tracking where each stadium sits throughout the season. And for example, if a field were to get a little harder than normal, or if we saw something, we would kind of work with the field manager in advance and do some remediation. So if you look around, you'll start seeing our technology game day assistance people. That's the visiting bench. Home bench is over here. They're testing coach to player. So that's probably Aaron Rodgers' helmet and whoever their defensive play caller is. And then they're doing the backup alternates as well. You tend to see some more activity on the visiting side because now you have a team coming in. They haven't played here yet this year, and now they're trying to make sure all their football technology needs are met. Everything's working, audio's good, all that stuff.
We'll walk the whole field. We'll go down to the end zone, across, and then up the hash marks, all the way back down and back this way. And then our coaches that are on the sideline with the belt packs will walk the sideline to see if there's any dead spots within the bench
And the
area.
belt packs are what you're talking about here that's sitting on the benches, okay?
Yep.
You might have noticed a few folks in various colorful caps on the field. They're not just fashion forward. It takes a lot of people to keep all the tech up and running. And those hats, they tell us who is responsible for each area. Yellow hats oversee coach-to-coach communication. Orange hats handle coach-to-player. Purple hats manage the Microsoft Surface sideline viewing system. Blue hats are network technicians. And gray hats signify the football technology rep. This person keeps a close eye on the sideline communication equipment and makes sure it's functioning properly.
So this is a sideline technology cart. This basically has a network that's set up and tore down before each game. It's set up, tore down after the game. This runs the coach-to-coach, coach-to-booth communication, coach-to-player communication. In here we have a dashboard. This is going to tell you what all the CX1, basically the coach's belt packs, that's communicating. Is this communicating correctly? Is the battery working? What's their signal? All of that to know that things are working properly. So without this cart, all those fancy things don't run. Next cart, the Microsoft Service Cart. This is a pretty simple cart. It pretty much has the phones, the ring down phones. This will go to the different people, like the NFL Observer will have a extension. And from there, the communication to the sideline can happen from up in the booth down to here, right on cue. As an example, we got a phone call.
And to make sure there's no interference with the communication equipment, a frequency coordinator is on site at every game, tracking stray radio waves that could get in the way.
What are you looking for throughout the game, and what is that you're holding on to?
This here is a device called a spectrum analyzer, and it looks at the radio spectrum, frequency spectrum, and it puts it on a graphical display. So,
And you can tell what from that?
we can tell what users are out there. We can't necessarily identify who they are, but we can tell that there is a frequency operation. And we can direction find with it. We use another antenna that can roam around and kind of see where it might be coming from.
When you do find somebody, what do you guys do?
You know, we haven't really had that problem.
Okay, that's good. That's a good thing. Then.
That's a good thing, yeah.
You look back 20 years ago, we weren't having this many people on our sidelines handling the technology. But once we've advanced with coach to player, and all these different things, when you put technology on the sidelines, you need support. So a lot of these game day assistants that we hired have been really involved in the sporting and football technology. But your ball crew, chain crew, those are people that the team hires on game day.
About 2 hours and 15 minutes before the game, it's time to deliver game balls to the referee for inspection. 12 primary and 12 backups. Additionally, one representative from each team can inspect and prepare the kicking balls, or K-balls, that the officials receive directly from Wilson Sporting Goods. At 5:15, 2 hours before the scheduled kickoff, the gates open. For the Packers fan services staff, this is where their work truly begins.
Some of the things that we deal with on a game day might just be simply, how do I get to my seat? Where is the Hall of Fame? Providing a lot of information. Sometimes there are those things that are a little bit more challenging, where people might be standing up in front of you when you want them to be sitting down. Or there might be some issues that we just have to deal with, dealing with people sitting in the wrong seats. Some of the fun things that we get to do on game day is celebrate the people that are coming here for the first time. So we give out buttons for people, and they wear those, and they really like that. And we usually have our staff engage with people saying, hey, welcome to Lambeau Field, it's your first game. Where are you from? And those are those relationships that we try to build, whether people are coming for one game or they're season ticket holders throughout the year.
The next step, it's meeting time. The first occurs 1 hour and 40 minutes before every game.
We're going on our 100-minute security meeting. So we'll have representatives from both teams. We will have local police department. We will have our NFL security rep who will run the meeting, walk through some of the things that happen pregame. We'll have FBI, we'll have police and fire, and everybody kind of walks around, introduces themselves, talks about some of the things that we're looking at for the game. And it's a pretty smooth meeting, probably about 5-10 minute meeting. Ready?
We're ready.
It's then time for the crucial 90-minute officiating meeting, which includes the exchange of each team's inactive list and several other key elements. It's led by tonight's head official, Cleet Blakeman.
Okay, first things first, side judge, time of day, please.
5:45, 25, 26.
Perfect. Good. Just a reminder, 13-minute halftime. So we'll have our guys to the locker rooms with the 2-minute warnings to come out. So we expect we're going to kick off when the clock hits 0-0, okay? So but we'll get you there, we'll give you the warnings and come out at that time. So let's just roll through our protocol for the production tonight. So we've got TV break format. So we're going to have 16 total in-action breaks, 4 per quarter, unless we have some modifications. Each break's going to be 2 minutes, 20 seconds long. And Perry, back judge, he's going to control the last minute. Last thing, if we have an overtime, we'll go straight to the coin toss. Then we'll come back and you'll take a 1 minute break. How about anything, Perry? Anything else?
Sounds good.
David,
No, we're good.
you got it.
Great.
You good? We good, everybody?
Yep.
Thanks so much. All right, we'll see you. Thanks, everybody.
This is also the time when the official coin for the coming toss is handed over to Blakeman.
Here is tonight's coin for you. Okay.
Blakeman has been an NFL official since 2008 and was the head referee at Super Bowl 50.
Each week is a little different. Each teams are a little different, so we've got to prepare for different nuances, different offenses, different defenses, and things like that. But it really becomes down to kind of getting together. The time we have here in Green Bay as a group is not a lot of time, but we have to be effective with it and just use it to the best that we can to get ready for the game. The energy you feel, the adrenaline you get just never changes. Kickoff's amazing, and then we just get into our in our groove and work the game.
Blakeman heads a total crew of 7, each with a specific role in a specific position. Here's tonight's lineup.
We have Perry Paganelli, back judge here. Jeff Rice is our umpire. Jerry Bergman is a down judge. Tom Simonette is a line judge. Joe LaRue is field judge. And Jimmy Buchanan is side judge.
After the 90-minute meeting, it's back to the field for the final pregame checks.
We just had our 90-minute meeting with the networks with our officiating crew, so we're about 80 minutes, 75 minutes before kickoff. I'm on the Packers sidelines now. These guys have done all their checks. Everything should be working at this point. So I'm just gonna make sure everyone's happy right now as we get closer to kickoff here, and that's the last check here. Are you guys happy? Everybody's happy?
I am.
I'm just checking in on you guys. Everything, all right,
Yeah, we're good.
working. Are you guys all set? Everything's working? Okay, great. What do I need to know? Are you happy? Everything's good?
We are good.
You're good.
At 1 hour to kickoff, the official team warm-up period begins. Each team must warm up on its designated half of the field. And during this time, the league's uniform inspector checks every player to ensure that all uniforms are in line with league specifications. The officials are also about to take the field, and they don't have to wait until the opening whistle to do their thing.
Around 50 minutes, you'll see our referee and the 6 other officials. And once they hit the field, they really control the game. They could actually call an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty during the pregame warm-up period if they're out there.
And if this game were in a dome, this is the time the stadium roof must be in its designated position, and all game lights must be active.
About 36 minutes before kickoff, I just checked the visiting sidelines, talked to a few people, talked to the head coaches. I'm going up to the press box for my responsibilities. It's a long walk here in Lambeau, so I'm leaving early. So this walk is something you won't see in other stadiums. We're in the bowels of the stadium, right? And out amongst the crowd. Anything you guys need? Everything working all right? You guys good? Yes? Great. Okay. How are my friends in instant replay? Everybody happy? Yes? Okay. All right. This is the shot from the replay booth in Lambeau Field. If I need to get in touch with them, if something comes up, I want to make sure I have direct access to both sidelines. And then if they need to reach out to me up here, if something comes up, we know we have that line back and forth. Hey, it's Dave Guardian, Football Ops. I'm just checking the phone lines, okay? Thank you. Hey, it's Dave Guardian. I just want to make sure you guys have a connection here. Obviously, people have cell phones and things like that, but in the bench area, we're very careful who can use a cell phone. Especially team personnel cannot use a cell phone. The team medical staff is the only exception. They can use cell phones for medical purposes to check records, things like that.
For us, the most important time is between the visiting team introductions and the kickoff. There's a lot of things that are happening. There's a lot of cues that have to be hit.
Thank you. Enjoy the game.
It's really important because any of those get out of sync and then your kickoff gets affected. And there's a lot of anticipation that you're trying to build, and you're trying to have this crescendo when your team comes running out of the tunnel. And so to me, that's like the most intense, but the most fun, because you're sort of trying to get to this point and you can hear the crowd starting to really, get into it and understand where you're going. And then really from that point, we go through our national anthem and then that opening kickoff.
Remember how the intros that go so darn fast and we don't have a lot of time, so let's be ready. So team intros are at 7:06:30, so let's be lined up and ready to go.
And now all of our timing starts to coordinate, so we kick this thing off right on the time that ESPN wants to start the game.
Now it's showtime.
Patrick, what do you say, buddy?
All righty. Cue Bill. Take it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers. introducing the starting offensive unit for your Green Bay Packers.
Go.
And running back with Texas El Paso, number 33, Aaron Jones. And at quarterback from California, number 12, Aaron Rodgers.
And Q Bill. Take it.
Please join us as we welcome Edward Schrank, a 6-time head and neck cancer survivor from chemical exposure while serving 15 years in the U.S. Marine Corps. Please stand, remove your hats, and join Edward Schrank as he sings our national anthem.
They put the mic 3 on John's mic. I'm going to watch it when he's on again. Okay, got it. You can watch it.
Cleats out for the coin toss. He'll give his instructions.
Welcome to Monday Night Football. Good luck to both teams. Let's have a great ball game tonight. Today's coin, crucial catch side is heads, the T side is tails. The crucial catch side is heads, the T is tails. Detroit, you're the visiting team. It is your choice. Heads. Heads. Heads is the call. It is tails. You win the toss. Defer. You want the ball? Okay, which way you want to kick? All right, just like this. Green Bay wins a toss, elects to defer their choice in the second half.
We're about 60 seconds till kickoff, so here we go, Monday night in Lambeau. Looking forward to this.
This is a working press box operated under rules established by the Pro Football Writers of America.
We welcome you to historic Lambeau Field in Green Bay on a picture postcard. Crisp, cool October evening for Monday Night Football. Coming up tonight from Lambeau Field, the 180th overall meeting between the Packers